Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming out on this not so nice spring night. Let the record show that all board members are present and accounted for. If we could kindly stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. The Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on an agenda item? Okay, can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of the March 22nd, 2022 planning session?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, and we have some outstanding recognition tonight we're here to make. I want to invite Mr. Haran, our District Athletic Director, come on down.
Good evening. It's great to be here tonight to recognize all of our winter sport participants for an incredible season. They've done a great job during very challenging times. I also want to, before we recognize the individual student athletes, I want to congratulate our varsity winter sport teams. 8 of our 10 varsity sport teams were recognized by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association for being scholar athlete teams. And the combination of all 10 of our varsity teams having a GPA of 90.28, a very impressive number. And I also want to recognize our winter sport coaches, as I mentioned, navigating teams through very difficult times during COVID and providing them a positive, rewarding educational experience is no easy task, so I want to thank them for their leadership. To recognize our individual winter sport athletes for all county honors, I'll call your name up by sport, and when I call you up, I just ask our students that are able to join us here tonight to please come forward where Mrs. Burns is, and to receive your certificate, and then we'll take a group picture after everybody is recognized. So to start out the festivities, starting out with our girls varsity basketball program. Being honored by their respective coaches association throughout Suffolk County, we have students being recognized for academic all-county here tonight. Starting out, Megan Spence. Come on down, Megan. Followed by Kiara Brannigan. They're a lot faster on the basketball field.
Dad, you should come forward and take pictures. You don't have to stay by the seat.
Yeah, Kiara.
Come back.
There you go.
Nice shot.
And Brooke Patricola. And I want to recognize head coach, Mr. Chris Sharp, who is here supporting his student athletes here tonight. Coach Sharp's been a long-time varsity basketball coach for us, and he was honored by the Suffolk County Coaches Association as the Suffolk County Coach of the Year. So congratulations. Moving forward with our student recognitions from our boys varsity winter track team. Being recognized for his all-county honors, Rocco Carpinello. Academic all-county boys varsity winter track, John Bonneberger. Being recognized for all-county and boys varsity bowling, Tim Smith. Recognized for all county honors in boys varsity swimming and diving, Kevin Gallhart. Recognized for all county honors in varsity cheerleading, Callie Disbrow. And Aim O'Brien. being recognized for academic All-County in varsity cheerleading, Annalise Anarama. And I want to thank the parents and guardians of all of our student athletes for your endless support, not only this past year, but over the past couple of years. And how about a round of applause for our All-County winter sport athletes.
Parents, feel free to stand up and get a really good angle.
By all means, come on.
Get a really good angle. Don't be shy.
Congratulations.
We also have Mr. Allbinders here tonight. We have some more outstanding achievements and recognitions.
Good evening, everybody. Before we recognize our outstanding musicians this evening, I just would like to also say that despite COVID, we've been having a stellar year. Things are running full steam ahead. We had 2 fabulous musical productions at both middle schools and recently at the high school. Some of you that came early got to see some of the highlights on the screen tonight. And we have all our spring concerts up and running. We have over 350 students participating in our NISMA Festival in 2 weeks at the high school. You'll get to see the marching band in the Memorial Day Parade and so on. So we're very, very proud. We did have approximately 25 high school all-county students and about 55 students in grades 5 through 8 that made all-county as well. But this evening I'd like to recognize our cream of the crop, the best of the best. These are our all-state students. They got to participate up in Rochester. Extremely selective this year. They cut the groups down by almost 45%. So the fact that we even got a few people in was truly amazing. So when I call your name, please come up. First student, Drake Cassenway, alternate all-state symphonic band. Next is Emma McDonald, alternate all-state mixed chorus. Next is Grace Minio, all-state mixed chorus. Emma Musial, alternate all-state symphony orchestra. And Mark Perugine, all-state symphonic band.
We good for photos? Congratulations.
Mr. Alwana, I just wanted to say to you, in case I don't have the opportunity to see you between now and June, to thank you very so much for the work that you've done here in the school district. I remember when you came on after Bernie left and retired, and we had an amazing program then. And you know, when we lose an administrator like that, it's kind of a little nerve-wracking. They say, "Oh my goodness, was he the, you know, where are we going to go from here?" And you really stepped in and took that department to the next level. Everything that comes out of there is just amazing, and I really, truly thank you for all of the work that you do with the children here in our arts department. Thank you very much.
And I don't know how many of you actually got to see the performance of Cinderella, but it was just outstanding. I mean, I cannot say enough about it. I had the pleasure of coming twice. My mother asked, so how was it? And I said, Mom, you know it's good when I didn't look at my phone one time to see what time it was. I just enjoyed it that much. I mean, from the music, from everything, it was just spectacular. So congratulations to everybody involved. And now on to personnel, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. May I have a motion for the approval of the personnel agenda as listed in your backup?
So moved. Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. And thank you, Mr. Taylor. Curriculum update, Mrs. Morrison.
Good evening, everybody. On March 25th, Dr. Bridgman, Mrs. Flynn, and 2 students from the high school took part in the Long Island Regional Virtual Students Forum. The annual forum provides students across Long Island opportunities to interact with their peers from other districts to discuss perspectives on social emotional wellness, the readjusting to in-person learning, the inclusivity of all students, among other topics. The discussions were based upon guided questions that the students were given at the start of the forum, and they were facilitated by the students themselves. Students in grades 3 through 8 took part in the 2-day New York State ELA test between March 29th and April 1st. 1,682 students were eligible to take the exam. 772 students did take the exam, or 45.9%, compared to last year when only 36% of the students took it. The district is looking forward to taking a look at that data. It will certainly help us to inform our instructional programs, see where our students are falling in regard to the state standards, and then plan accordingly. Regents exams are scheduled to take place this June and August. Review classes will be offered in the summer for those students that are taking the exam in August, and we are looking into creating a Regents review exam opportunity for students in May and the beginning of June for those students that are taking the exams in June. The new U.S. History and Government Regents is going to be given on June 1st this year. That's considerably earlier than the other exams. In order to administrate the exams on that day, 9th, 10th, and 12th grade students will have virtual instruction. So students will be learning from home at those grade levels while teachers are teaching from the classrooms. I would just like to say that I saw some pictures yesterday of Mrs. Alada's pre-K class at Paul J. Blue. They took their first trip to the STEM lab. They had learned about the life cycle of flowers in the classroom, and then went to the STEM lab to plant some sunflower seeds, and now they'll be watching that life cycle actually happen in real life. So it was really great to see the smiling faces of those little guys. Thank you, Mr. Tussey.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Morrison. We'll now move on to the report of our board committees. With the Education Committee, we have Mr. Antonello.
Thanks, Mr. Tussey. The Ed Committee met at Beach Street Library on Tuesday, April 5th. Meeting starts at 7 o'clock. In attendance were committee members myself and Debbie Brown. Also in attendance were board members Pete McCann, Tom Compatello, Anthony Tussey. Administrators present include Superintendent Burns, Assistant Superintendent Morrison, Assistant Superintendent Bellotti, and Mr. Brian Taylor. The board received a cybersecurity update from the Instructional Information Technology Director, Mr. Poiser. We viewed a PowerPoint highlighting security steps taken to prevent attack. For example, 3 different firewalls, 3 different companies for the firewalls to detect multiple threats, daily backup of our systems, replication, internal vulnerability and penetration testing, and that was followed by even more examples of things I don't understand. The second issue was the vaping and cell phone issues. Administration and the board discussed the persistent problem of vaping and cell phone usage. The Safety Committee is going to take a deeper look at other measures for next year. Other updates included the state testing for grades 3 through 8 was conducted. 45% of students took it. That was up from last time. The Reads Review classes, and Mrs. Morrison already mentioned, are set for August. The K-1 teachers finished their fundamentals training. The program will make its way down to the pre-K for next year. The elementary report cards revision continues for K through 5. Placement of elementary special ed programs may need to change based on enrollment in the coming months. Tracy Edwards also came to speak to the board about inclusivity. She'll next talk to the administration and staff. The meeting ended at approximately 7:25.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Antonello. On to the Finance Committee with Mr. McGinnis.
Thank you. The committee met on April 5th. Committee members present, Peter McCann and myself. Other board members in attendance, Richard Antonello, Debbie Brown, Tom Campitello, Anthony Tussey. Administrators present, Superintendent Burns, Elisa Pilati, and Dawn Morrison. The purpose of the meeting was to review the warrants for the month and discuss pertinent fiscal matters. The meeting was called to order at 7:35. The following reports were presented and accepted by the committee. The treasurer's reports for school district funds and the financial statements for the month of February, the internal claims audit report, and the system manager audit trail report for the month of March, the payroll certification for the period ending March 18th and April 1st, 2022. The committee received the warrants. We reviewed board agenda finance items, including the recommended budget transfers, approval of surplus food holding and warming cabinets for West Islip High School and Paul J. Ballou, and the approval of RFP number 2200 for Access 7 Services Inc., Da Vinci Education and Research, Horizon Therapies, Horizon Healthcare, Kids Educational Services, Little Angels Center, Metro Therapy, Milestones at Home Care, Nassau Suffolk Services for Autism, and Tender Age PY Incorporated. Discuss the approval of bid extensions for 2022-2023. Number 2101, Aurora Equipment Services, 2105, Ideal Fence Corporation, 2108, Rydell / All American, and 2110, Fitzgerald Driving School. Approval of the 2021-22 currently placed special education contract with Smithtown Central School District. We did have a discussion item. The board discussed the proposal to change the school lunch manager from a part-time 11-month position to a full-time 12. The meeting was adjourned at 7:45.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McGinnis. On to Building and Grounds with Mr. McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. Welcome, everyone. The Building and Grounds meeting met directly after the Finance meeting on April 5th. Administrators in attendance were Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Morrison, Mrs. Pilati, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Bossi. All board members were in attendance with the exception of Mrs. LaRosa. We discussed several items there. We got a general update on all the construction projects that are going on within the district. There's a master list of all the construction projects. And just to clarify, we went through construction projects that are bond projects. So we had a bond that was issued several years ago. We're still working down that money on the bond, so there's several projects that are in motion for that. We also have Smart Schools funding that was granted to us that's going to be used for the renovation of the security vestibule at the district office. And then we have capital reserve projects that were voted on in 2021 that we're working on, and then proposed capital projects for the 2022 vote. We discussed several of those projects, and I just wanted to kind of review one of them because I got a few questions about the parking lot at Paul J. Ballou on the expansion. I think it was at a lacrosse game, and some parents had come up to me just to explain it. So we talked about the capital reserve budget. So the capital reserve was added to the district about 3 years ago. That's a reserve fund specifically for building and grounds and improvement projects. That money is set aside each year so that we can allocate for those. So the community voted on that to add that to the budget. So each year money gets put into that. At the middle of the year, we decide on projects and how to spend that money. We go through the list of projects that we could use to spend that money from. Those get provided to the public, and the public votes on whether we should do those projects or not. So the Paul J. Ballou parking lot is one that we've discussed in several meetings now. There is no resolution for it yet. It's still under discussion. There's been many iterations of what needs to be done there. There is a need there. We don't have the perfect solution in all the projects yet, and we're hoping to have some more clarity on that. But the money that gets spent for a project like that, for instance, will be voted on by the public in the budget vote, May 17th. Again, that was money specifically set aside for those projects. So that money doesn't cross over. We're not taking money from educational programs, or we can't use that money to hire more counselors. That money voted on by the community is specifically set aside for these projects. We do that so that we have the ability to handle capital improvement projects, as most of these schools were built in the 50s, so there's continuous maintenance. So we don't want the opportunity not to have to float another bond. We have that money available. In the next budget, we are going to put a proposal on to start a second capital reserve. We've talked about using that for the air conditioning systems potentially, which we haven't gotten quotes on yet, but we've talked about that. So I just wanted to clarify that on the question. So that money is specifically designed for capital improvement projects, so that in the future we don't have to float a bond for the large projects like that. Other things that we talked about, Udall staff entries. We're working on a potential awning for that staff with weather like tonight. The Suffolk County Marathon is looking to use part of our facilities for that marathon. I don't know if anyone participated last year. They ran down Robert Moses Causeway all the way to Robert Moses. It was a great marathon, but they do use some of our facilities, so they've requested that. We're taking a look at availability to use for that day, so it doesn't conflict with anything that we have going on. The Macera Committee continues to do their work. They had a building tour on Saturday. I know we had about 15 of the members there, and along with some of the administration. Took the tour of the building to kind of assess where that building is at. The Macera Committee, as we remember, is the committee that was designed to recommend projects that would be feasible for that property to the board. So we've hired an outside consultant who's moderating that process so that we make sure the process is fair. We take all the committee input. The Macera Committee has a steering committee of about 12 people that will actually go out and price out all the projects, get all the facts and figures to the projects that they recommend, and then they'll come to the board, and the board will then decide on the feasibility of those projects for many of the issues. So the next Macera committee meeting, which is, those are open to everyone in public. There's no questions taken at that, but you can listen in. The next one will be a Zoom meeting. We just don't have a date for that. So once that is, it'll be posted on the website. And that was what we talked about. We adjourned about 7:50 that evening. I look forward to seeing you the next one.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCann. Special Education Committee, Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Tossi. The Special Education Committee met on April 6th at 8:30 a.m. via teleconference. In attendance were myself, administrators Dawn Morrison and Jean Dowling. We discussed and approved the recommendations of the CSE, including placements outside of the district, and the meeting ended at 8:55 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Brown. There was...
Can I just ask a question about special education? Just because we're coming towards the end of the school year, and back in full swing of action of going into buildings and doing the observations. In years past, members of the board who were on that special education committee, that did that for many, many years, had the opportunity to go into the schools and visit special education classrooms. Ron, you and I have done that a number of times, and it's a really good experience to go in and see what we're doing in special education, how we're working with the youngsters, what the different types of classroom situations are, the different resources that are available to our students, and how the teachers are using them within the classroom. I think it's a good exercise for board members to do in order to report back, and understand that connection of that fiduciary spending of that money, what that budget looks like, and what we're doing with it. So I would just suggest that you may ask Mrs. Dowling about setting something up like that before the end of the year, so that you can take a look at that and see.
Do that.
All right, thank you. So on March 15th, 2022, there was a policy committee where we recognized that there are some policies that need to be changed. Some of these policies need to be changed based on state mandates. Some are based on the results of our internal auditor. and some are just general housekeeping items. The items are located in our backups to the board members. They're also posted on the district webpage. So tonight will be the first reading of the following policy changes, or potential changes anyway. Number 3283, the gender-neutral single occupancy bathrooms. Number 5324, the capital project change orders. Number 5520, the extra classroom activities fund. Number 7122.2, the release time for students. Number 7218, class ranking and weight of grades. Are there any discussions at this point amongst my fellow board members? All right, well, thank you. Okay, that completes the first reading. Thank you. We'll move on now to the financial matters with Ms. Splatty.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. The Treasurer's Report for the month of February had a beginning balance of $84,258,519.66 and an ending balance of $76,868,338.42. May I have a motion for the approval of budget transfers 4143 through 4162 in the general fund and 4144 through 4156 in the capital fund?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of bid extensions for 2022-23 as listed on the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of request for proposal number 2200 related to the special education services as listed on the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of surplus miscellaneous food service equipment at West Islip High School and Paul J. Blue Elementary School?
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
May I have a motion for the approval of the Smithtown Central School District parentally placed special education contract for the 2021-22 school year?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Splatty. May I have a motion for the approval of the reorganizational meeting dated July 5th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. to be held at West Islip High School?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. I have a motion. Oh, I take that back. Is there any discussion on the 2022-23 regular meeting and planning session dates?
None.
All right, so can I? All right, can I have a motion of the approval of the chief school positions 2021-2022 revised?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. I have a motion of the approval of the Affordable Care Act Administration Agreement for 2022-2023.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion for the approval of the Southern Westchester BOCES resolution to bid jointly on office and classroom furniture for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
Second. I have a discussion.
That approval is obviously...
That approval is for this year, correct? Okay, just confirming that. Okay, thank you. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. And on to our superintendent's report. Mrs. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Tussey. On March 18th, Mr. Antonello, Mrs. Brown, and I met with Senator Boyle and Assemblyman Durso. We shared issues of concern and expressed appreciation for their funding support. They've always been very supportive. We hear that there is an agreement in concept on the state budget, but we do not have any specifics at this point, so we're hopeful we'll receive that tomorrow, and we will present the information and how it affects our school budget on Tuesday evening at our next work session. The last 2 weeks give evidence to the fact that the distance is in full stride. As you entered the auditorium this evening, you were treated to excerpts from the high school musical Cinderella, which was performed to great delight by all in attendance, as you heard some of our board members attest. That same weekend, the West Islip robotics team competed in the regional first robotics competition at Hofstra University, at which the team made it to the quarterfinals. So after a little hiatus, that was a very nice result. Additionally, Christopher Palazzo, a junior at the high school, earned the prestigious first Dean's List Finalist Award, so we're very proud of him. Also last week, I had the opportunity to attend the West Islip Chamber of Commerce meeting, at which Brian Haldewang was recognized for his achievement as a master teacher. Senior Tim Smith, who you heard about earlier this evening, was honored as one of the top bowlers in the county, and the varsity boys soccer team was acknowledged as New York State champions. Within the last week, I have attended 3 Honor Society inductions here at up at the high school: World Languages, Business and Marketing, and Art. So congratulations to all of the students and their families on their notable achievements, and especially their scholarship, leadership, and service to their school community. Be reminded that that last budget workshop I mentioned will be held on Tuesday, April 12th at 7:30 p.m. right here in the Beach Street Auditorium. And I wish everyone an enjoyable, healthy, and safe spring recess.
Thank you, Mrs. Burns. And as far as notice and reminder is concerned, you just gave the notice and reminder about the upcoming budget meeting. Also, nomination petitions are due back by April 18th for anyone who is interested in running for school board for next year. At this point, we're going to invite members of our audience to come up and speak. What we'll do, like we've been doing, I'll call up 2 names. We have 2 different podiums set up. We'll have one speak and then the other. Coming up first, we have Keith Muller. You can come. Oh, Keith is here. Okay, that's even better. And then Danielle Bowerman, you can come on this one. Thank you.
Hi. Recently, a student in Manitouk pulled a knife to threaten the life of himself and his teacher in front of his entire class. Luckily, the knife was confiscated and the child was removed from the class full of crying and traumatized kids, hiding in the corner and under their desks. Only a week later, this obviously disturbed and dangerous child was returned to class as if nothing had happened, and the students were told not to discuss the obvious threat to their safety. To date, the school administration has apparently done nothing to protect the children and staff from another violent attack. For years, we have heard hundreds of references to safety in schools. We shut down schools and totally abandoned learning for months in 2020 due to safety. We deprived our children of oxygen and countless opportunities for social development by forcing them to wear masks for their safety. We are constantly hearing about anti-bullying, anti-suicide, limits on parental involvement in schools' activities due to safety. And now, in the face of an actual threat to our children's safety, the people in charge do nothing but sweep it under the rug. Imagine for a moment that you're 8 years old, sitting in class, trying to learn how to multiply numbers, while having a legitimate fear that the kid sitting behind you might slit your throat at any moment. Can you even wrap your head around that? The situation is unacceptable, and the administration has intentionally created it. We were lucky enough to receive a warning shot from this troubled kid without any blood being shed. Next time, we will probably not be as lucky. Why are you allowing the situation to continue? He should be learning remotely or at a school with enhanced security that can provide better care for him. Simply hoping that he will not do it again is not just foolish, it's sick. If and when he gets his hands on a gun, where should we hold the candlelight vigil for his victims? This needs to be solved immediately, and the people responsible for ignoring the threat need to be held accountable. To quote my daughter, who witnessed this potentially deadly altercation from across the hall, I probably won't get stabbed this year, but maybe next year. What do you have to say to her?
Mr. Muller, as I have shared with you a couple of times via email, we are not going to comment on the situation. The district was very proactive, taking what I consider to be very appropriate action. I can understand your frustration as a parent, but I can assure you that the safety of every single child and staff member is always at the foremost of what we do in this district, but I am not going to comment on any individual child.
So we're going to do nothing.
I didn't say that.
Well, he took a week off, and now he's back, and the kids are scared to play with them. Well,
We're not going to comment on any child in public.
I don't need to know his private information. I'm not invading his privacy. I want to know what you're doing for the other kids to keep them safe.
You can't discuss other kids. You.
Mr. Debo, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that information, which is absolutely correct. We are not going to discuss another child. And I can assure you that we have taken proactive measures to ensure the safety of the children and the staff in that classroom and throughout the district.
Okay, before we have Danielle Bowerman speak, I also would like to call up Mrs. Angel. You can come to the next one. So, Mrs. Bowerman.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? My name is Danielle Bowerman. I am a licensed mental health counselor and a dance fitness instructor, and I'm here to present a workshop opportunity to the board in the district called Sweat and Swagger Kids. This is a 4-week workshop that focuses on children's mindset, social emotional learning, while also incorporating simple dance choreography moves. So it is also helping them get physically active. This is a really good program, especially considering the past 2 years being, coming hopefully out of a pandemic. I know that a lot of children are struggling with their mental health lately, and I think that this would be a really good opportunity for the district to incorporate. We do this for ages 5 all the way through high school. Each workshop would be split up depending on age groups or grade level. I also have some paperwork if anyone wants to take a look at it, or if you guys have any further questions. I just wanted to give like a brief overview and share the workshop with you guys.
I'd love to
Ms. Bowman, the district is currently looking into opportunities for the next school year, so I would be very interested in getting that paperwork from you and reaching out to you.
Wonderful.
Within the next week or so we can discuss it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that should be good. Yeah, this was really just a manual for that. Thank you. Any other questions? Done?
We're here.
All right, I'll be in touch.
All right, and before we move on to Mrs. Hanschel, Mrs. Worley, you'll be up next.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to wish everyone a happy Easter and a happy Passover. I have a few things to give to you. The first is chocolate. So when you go to executive session, they'll keep you nice and calm, and it's dove as a symbol of the Holy Spirit.
Summer's coming.
Chocolate brings people together. Also what I have is I want to talk to you about the National Day of Prayer soon, but I made you all a little non-expertise. My son could do a better job at putting your window or putting your office. This is for all of you. Okay, it's National Prayer Day. It's the 5th, everybody. Remember to say your prayers, because we can use them. Obviously, if we think that Ukraine can't happen here, we don't know what we're doing. Also, I sent you a very, very long email, and I appreciate anyone who took time to actually read it. I appreciate it. I also wanted to give you a hard copy of that very document. I'd like to give one to the attorney. I haven't had the pleasure to meet you personally, but this is for you because I'm probably going to be talking to you eventually. And also to Ms. Morrison, Curriculum Director, and to Mr. Tussey. Mr. Tussey, I have a quick question for you. You're a teacher, correct?
Yes.
You're a health teacher, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is anybody else a teacher? I know Ms. LaRose is a teacher. Anybody else a teacher on the board? What is your position, sir?
I teach history.
Okay. So basically, this topic is very sensitive to talk about, and that's why I had to write to you, because I cannot possibly say everything I said publicly. I might not get to my car. So basically, there was a lot of talk about mental health last meeting, and it prompted me to put a lot of what I've been researching into my email to you. And I think you know by now that I am not anti-board or anti-administration whatsoever, but I am sort of anti-state, and all of the regulations that you have to do come from our state. Not anti-state, I love New York, I love the people, I just don't like the rules, and I don't like the overstep and the overreach of our government, which dictates what our students are learning. And a lot of times what we do here in every district is we say, well, we can't help it, it's state mandated, state mandated. So it gets to the point where last month, when I heard a lot of parents reaching out about mental health, which we brought up again tonight, very concerned about mental health in our schools. And the reason for that is because everything you do has to come from New York State. So what I'm alluding to is parents be cautious, because whatever New York State tells the districts to do, they're going to do. So I would never, in this time of day or this age, I would never ever have my students go to a psychologist in school, a social worker, anybody who would ever deal with the mental health of my child without me being present. Now I can say, I think Steckner at Udall, all the people from the past, awesome, wonderful. This day and age, I will be very cautious, because they have to follow the mandates, I'm going to go over, they have to follow the mandates of New York State. So for instance, affirmative care. If you have a child go into a social worker or a psychologist, and the child says, well, I think I have this, or I think I am this, they cannot, by law, say, oh, no, you're not, sure you are. Oh, let's look into that further. Let's give you so much support and so many organizations that we can validate and affirm exactly what you think that you are at age 12, 13, 14. And you know what I'm talking about regarding what I put into my document. That's why I think people should be very cautious about mental health in public school education. It has nothing to do with the kindness I'm talking about. It's to do with the laws you have to follow in your district. And unless you're willing to fight against those laws, I don't think anybody should be touching anybody mentally and emotionally. Senate Bill S2584A, Sexuality Education in Schools, describes a new bill introduced in New York Senate, sponsored by a freshman Democrat. This bill could make comprehensive sex education compulsory for children as young as 5 in public and charter schools, and force schools to teach kids about gender identity by the end of 2nd grade. So that's where we are. It's in committee. It's looking to be passed in July of 2022. So that basically means that our children, well, not my children, I'm doing this for other people, and also because I'm a true educator and I really do care about children, not the guise of kindness. When people come up and say we have to be compassionate, we have to be loving, we have to support people, we should be inclusive. Sometimes the truth is a really good way of loving somebody, and looking at what I sent you and the book that I advise you to read, because that's true caring. And I really hope that you fight against this bill, because sexualizing our children in kindergarten is wrong. Ron DeSantis did something so brave in Florida, and what did they do? The other side, they called it the anti-gay bill. The word gay was never written in the bill. Wasn't that at all. Just wants to keep the innocence preserved in our children at a young age.
All right, I thank you very much for coming out to speak tonight. All right, we are well over our 3 minutes. If I could just kindly ask you to make your last point, please.
Okay.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll make my last point, then I have a couple questions. Okay, sometimes I forget to ask my questions. When I sit down, I go, oh my darn, I forgot to ask the question. So what I'm hoping for the future in the district, I don't know how, this is a question for you, Mr. Tussey, because you are a health teacher, so this dramatically affects your life here in our district as our board of education leader and in your own school district, okay? What does it take, and how would we go about as residents to find out the political background of each board member moving forward, either the new board or the old board? The reason I ask is we always hear that. The reason I'm asking this question, let me finish, not now, is moving forward, not now. I'm not going to ask all of you what you are, I don't really care. But my point is that they always say, local government first, okay? So my question is, when people run for the Board of Education, just like other politicians, shouldn't they basically come out and say the conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican? No. Because it makes a difference.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, Mary, I'm not asking you yet. I'm asking Mr. Tussey. Wait a minute.
Tell you.
No, wait, I'm not done.
Political ideology
I'm
has
not
no place
finished.
in education.
I'm not finished.
I'm telling you.
Well, I'm not finished.
It doesn't.
I'm not finished, okay?
And you know that.
No, I don't know that. I wouldn't be asking the question if I knew it. My point is, if the school is mandated by New York State to push policies that not every resident agrees with, isn't it a fair state? How would I go about doing that? How would we do that? Okay, what I'm trying to say is, I've been told for years, when I talked about the IB program, how it's a global program and not really focused on America. And I've been told, well, there's no politics in school. I got a lot smarter since then. Every single decision is political. Emery, how could you say that, coming from the state? The state is mandating our children to be sexualized in kindergarten.
Is there a question you'd like to ask?
Yes, there is, yes. And if you look at what I gave you, from the California Sexual Education Program, it's scary, and it's coming here soon. So I have some documents for you if you're interested. And one thing I would like to ask you is, or just comment, it amazes me too with our own community. The masks have been taken off and the parents are gone, and I hold them accountable too. This is more important than masks could ever be. This is the innocence of our children. Okay, so my question to you is, how do I get a petition? How do I do that? To have because really a fair and balanced board would be liberals and conservatives together, working together. It's pretty bad if, I can't say her name wrong, Tiandra Brown Jackson can't describe what a woman is in 2022?
So again, I ask, your question is how do you get a petition?
My question is, if it's not allowed to bring politics in school, which already is here anyway, how would we go about having people at a Meet the Candidate night come out and say, well, I'm a conservative, and fine, have everybody, liberals, conservatives. If you want a fair system, for instance, if you just say you're a board, just in a different district.
Do you have questions about questions you could ask at Meet the Candidate night? You could reach out to Suffolk County PTA Association.
I don't want to do that. I want you to do it for me. You're my board leader. What I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to get at is, if you have a board, just say Belmore, America, not you guys. And you know that you have a board comprised of half conservatives and half liberals, that's fair and balanced. But if you have a board full of all liberals who support New York, who's fighting for the children in a case like this?
Mrs. Hanschel, it came up this evening as PTA Council. There's going to be a link at which residents can put their questions forward to the PTA. The board has nothing to do with Meet the Candidate night.
No, I'm not talking about Meet the Candidate. I'm talking about
partial evening. So if you have a question that you would like asked, including someone's political ideology, I don't know if they would allow the question or not. You have every right in the world to ask Suffolk PTA about it. But it's not something that we would discuss here at this Board of Education meeting that is focused on children.
But this is all about children. What would the PTA do? I mean, I don't understand that.
You're talking about people that are running for the board.
No, I'm talking about in general. I'm just talking about in general. I was told that you're not allowed in politics and education, but education is completely political. It's totally political. I don't know how we can possibly say that, and to be fair, it's not true. It's extremely political. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these mandates being forced. That's what all I'm trying to say is we need as a community to know where our representatives stand. So how do we go about in the future having people being forced almost to say where you stand? Because it's really, if someone is like,
Well, listen, to answer that question, I know there's a campaign going on right now where there's 6 or 7 different people that are possibly running for school board, and it's a very big social media campaign, and they have Facebook pages. I would imagine a question like that you might want to reach out to via social media. That seems to be
I just mean in general.
the new date age. Well, I can't answer on behalf of everyone. It's not really my place, but those are the questions that you have for the candidates. I reach out to them.
No, I'm talking about a more bigger picture.
I understand.
You know what
But
I'm
listen, I do thank you very much for your time. I am going to move on forward to Mrs. Worley, who's been kindly, patiently waiting. I thank you so much.
I don't think she minds waiting for me, but you don't mind. No. Okay, so
we're well way over. So thank you very much for coming down tonight, and I appreciate your email.
I'm just going to continue.
So,
one question. My question is this: National Prayer Day. Are you or aren't you going to do anything for it? I've been asking for 4 months. I've never got an answer, but in fairness to you, I never really asked. I just kept talking, which I do. So, are you going to put a message for May 5th on the electronic board, National Prayer Day?
At this moment in time, no, we are not.
Okay, may I ask why not?
I don't think it's appropriate.
You don't think it's appropriate? Why not?
Listen, I'm not here to give you my personal philosophy.
Okay,
and so,
one more question.
No, we're good. We're all set.
Okay, so
Mrs.
you don't
Worley,
think it's
thank you so
appropriate?
much. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, you answered my question a lot more than that. Thank you so much.
Actually, I'm going to cut you off, Mrs. Worley, and just invite down Mrs. Viteri to come on deck. Sure. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Trustee. Is the teacher's contract currently expired, or when will it be expiring?
I don't know the exact date in June. Is it the last day of school? June 2022.
Okay. Is the board currently in the process of negotiating a new contract?
Are we even at liberty to discuss if we are in contract negotiations? I mean, there has not been an official proposal made one way or the other yet, no.
Okay. Then I have to ask you, do you anticipate the contract being settled by the end of the school year or before the next super possible board comes in?
So it's a tough question. Ideally, I would love to go into the next school year with labor peace, by all means. I mean, I would think that's our goal. I really cannot even speculate and anticipate how long the process could take. I know right now, with all due respect to our teachers, our superintendent search is taking the #1 priority at this point.
Then I have another question. Does Mr. McCann, as the husband of a WIDA member, have any input as to the details of the negotiations?
Mr. McCann, do you want to answer that question yourself? Because I know how
I've
you...
announced it several times. I'm abstaining from any part of that negotiation.
Okay. So because he must abstain from any of the negotiation, because he benefits financially from the outcome of the contract, we, the people of West Islip, the community, are deprived of our representation at the bargaining table. Is that a safe assumption?
I just want to clarify, he's not required to abstain from any vote.
Right.
He has chosen, as he just explained, to take a step back, but he's not required to. I just want to be clear about what the expectations are.
Okay, so, but we still, because he's abstaining, we lose out on a person representing us as a community.
I guess if you want to look at it that way, I mean, there
So,
are
yeah.
6 other members here that were voted in.
Right, but we have 7, so we're losing a person, essentially. Okay. And then my last question would be, Mr. Compitello, as a retired WIDA member, do you also abstain from contract negotiation?
No, I'm well retired.
And I'm assuming that he has the right to do that, just as Mr. McCann has the right to refuse, or to abstain. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Wolrath, you're more than welcome to hang on that side as well if you want, or you can come over.
Hello. So, I'm quick. I just have a couple of questions. So regarding the superintendent search, because we went to the agency meeting the other night, he said that they're taking applications until May 2nd. Is that date like a hard and steadfast date that you're not going to take applications after that?
So when we met and we had our consultation meeting with them, that was the date that was set to close the application process.
Okay. So in normal recruitment efforts, especially knowing that 2 weeks later, the board is going to have an election, I would think it would be probably beneficial for more candidates if the application process was extended for 2 more weeks, or 3 weeks.
It was 45 days it was open, and it's not really, I don't want to make an assumption for all people that are applying, but more than likely the decision I would imagine they've taken very seriously and have made up their minds and are probably applying to other districts as well. I don't think holding off 2 extra weeks for the application process is really the right way to go. 45 days, I believe, or so it was open. So if people really want the job, I would think they're going to apply within that time.
It's not necessarily about the job, it's about the board, because there's 3 seats.
Whoever's elected doesn't take office until July.
I'm sorry?
Whoever's elected doesn't take office.
I understand, but when someone goes for a position and they're interviewing on the board, and if they know they have 7 members they have to report into, they know that 3 of these spots could potentially be overturned, so they might not like the personality of somebody, and if they're interviewing other places, it could change your applicant pool drastically by not waiting the 3 more weeks. So I think you're going to be doing a disservice to the community if you don't extend it.
Okay, I respectfully disagree with that, but I do appreciate it.
Okay.
Understand, thank you.
And then, if and when you guys start your process and the 3 seats are overturned, because we know 1 seat definitely will be.
Not overturned, just replaced.
Replaced. Okay. If 3 seats are replaced, are you going to allow the incumbents to participate with the search and the decision-making process with the applicants that are in process.
You mean
So-
between May and June? Between May and July?
Correct.
I got you.
So the seven of us that are here, obviously, we were elected to 3 years for our term. That term does not expire until the reorganization meeting in July. So there is no plan to stop the superintendent search based on what ifs. Our goal
I'm not saying
right,
stop.
our goal right now is to get a new superintendent for the start of next school year. In the event 3 new board members take place and there is not a superintendent picked at that point, we'd have another discussion. I can't really talk about what if and what might happen. I just know that the 7 of us right now are very focused on moving forward and getting a new superintendent for the start of next school year. And our goal is to have that put in place prior to the reorg meeting, and not for any other reason, just for what's best for the students and for the school district.
Right, well, I didn't say stop the search, I was saying including new people. And then if we don't have a superintendent by August 15th, what is the game plan for the interim solution?
The game plan is at that point, we would probably have to look into an interim replacement, which could possibly be Ms. Burns, or it could be somebody else who puts in for it. But again, that's another what if.
Okay, and then one final question. Bylaws, are they available, your bylaws as a board, are they available online for us to find them? Where are they?
If you go to the website, you have the 6 main categories: district.
Okay.
If you go to district and just drop down to policies, they're right there.
They're in there?
Code of conduct, board policies, all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Walrat?
Hi. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but going through the agenda, a couple questions came up, and I realized that there were a few other things I wanted to ask about. So the first question I had was, my understanding is the special education plan is revamped or reevaluated every 2 years, and that it's due to be reevaluated this year. When would we expect that to take place, or when would we expect that to come out?
I believe Mrs. Dowling is working on that right now, and it's due to be done before June 30th, so it's something we need to submit.
Okay, great. The second question I have has to do with the capital reserve. Mr. McCann, you were explaining how this is money that's allocated over the course of a few years, and midway through the year we choose projects. And my question is, can we essentially save that money or bank that money and save it up for a larger project, or does it have to be spent every so often? Do we have to spend $1.4 million potentially on a parking lot, or can we save that money and put it towards the air conditioning so that we could potentially do that project sooner?
Yep, and you don't have to spend it all the same year. I don't know what the exact requirement is he's spending.
Ms. Pilati's going to answer that question.
Sure. The capital reserve does not have to be spent each year. It's whatever the board decides to put forward to the community to vote on. So the answer is no, it doesn't have to be spent.
But Mrs. Plotty, maybe you could talk a little bit about the purpose of the second reserve and how that would be funded, because I think that lends into your question to a degree.
Okay, sure. So the third proposition on the ballot this year will be for the establishment of a second capital reserve, which will be funded similar to the way we have this capital reserve funded, which is from any excess monies at year end, which is considered fund balance, we would appropriate it to the reserve, or any other funds, reserve funds, that we feel might be over-reserved, which we could transfer funds from those reserves into the capital reserve, the new one.
Into the second one?
Correct.
Okay, so potentially next year we would have 2.
That's correct.
If it's approved or through the vote, if we decide to go with the second capital reserve. What would be the benefit of having 2 versus just having 1? Why the separation?
Well, the first one we established has a limit of contributing $2 million per year. This one has a limit over the span of the 20 years. So the way the proposition is written, there is no limit as to how much you can fund it each year. It's just a limit on the max total.
Okay, and it's funded solely from the excess from the budget, or is it funded partially through an increase in the tax levy?
No.
Not
Any
at all.
capital reserve is only funded through excess funds remaining at the end of the year, or from a transfer from another fund that already, reserve fund that already is established that might have excess monies in it.
Okay, awesome. So I have another question that popped up, and it's about this first reading for the policy committee. It says gender neutral bathrooms, the capital project changes, et cetera, et cetera. Can you elaborate a little bit on what, like, is there somewhere where there's more information on that? Because this is not very descriptive.
So they're posted as backup to this agenda on the district website, so you can see the changes. Some of them are new based on the law. So for example, the gender neutral single occupancy bathrooms, that's a legal requirement. The extra classroom activities fund, release time of students, class ranking, those were all updates to the policy, and the capital project change order was as a result of one of our audits. We were required to have a policy.
Okay, so.
But they're all posted on the website.
Okay, so I can find more information there. And you, in order for this to be approved, it has to be read twice and then passed, or
It
how does that
doesn't
work?
have to. Technically, the board could have waived the second reading tonight and adopted policies. But traditionally, you have a first reading and a second reading. The second reading will take place at the May board meeting publicly, at which time the board will adopt the policies if there's no concerns.
Okay, and it takes input from the community at that point, or at any point?
Yes, and since it's on the agenda, the input can come at the beginning of the meeting or the end of the meeting.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And again, just a reminder that next Tuesday is our next budget meeting. That meeting will be on fund balance, revenue, and expense. Board of petitions again due by April 18th, and I wish everybody a very happy Passover and Easter. Those baseball fans that are there, hopefully the Mets are doing well tonight. And I wish you all a great night, and thank you for coming out. Motion to adjourn to executive session where the board will discuss negotiations, litigation, and personnel.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.